Well, hello, it's Ben from the DIY Homefront, and today I'm in North Carolina working on the family cabin. There was a bunch of storm damage from Helene up here too, so that's what I'm working on. Let me show you what's going on. Well, there is this beautiful, picturesque little creek that runs down next to the cabin, but when the storm came, so much water came down the creek that it actually jumped the creek. And started coming down this way. This would be the driveway to the cabin. And I don't know if you can see it, but it is really washed out. Now I've got my little John Deere tractor, and the idea is to see if I can't do something about this to improve it. But I think the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to end up blowing all the leaves off. So that's what I'll do. I'll blow all these leaves off, and then we can survey the damage and see how bad it is. Well, I just wanted to tell you thanks for checking out my channel, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Well, there's a lot of leaves in these trees, and since fall has come, they are all on the ground. So it took me about 45 minutes to get the driveway completely blown off, but you can see it a lot better now. I don't know if it's obvious, but those are the roots from the trees. This used to all be covered with grass. This used to all be about a foot higher at least. And the ground was completely covered with dirt. There was no exposed stones or rocks at all. And here's my truck parked in that same area. And just look at all the stones. There's no way you could drive a car or a truck down this driveway. And a couple places you can tell where somebody came along, one of the neighbors, and built a little wall to help push the water off because it just kept running down the driveway. And you can see there's a little bit of rut on each side, but this is deep. About halfway to my shin. That's at least a foot deep. I'm really glad I blew all the leaves off. It would be really easy to get the tractor stuck or to tip the tractor over by accidentally getting into one of these places, you know it? Well, this is where the driveway meets the road, and you can see there's a mailbox there. Let me show you what it looked like before the storm. Well, there you go. You can see the paved road, and you can see the way the driveway veers off to the right. And there's a lot of grass, and there's no stones, just a little bit of gravel. And this picture was in the summer when everything was growing really green. Well, now it's time to see if something can be done with this. All joking aside, to my father-in-law, who thought we could just take a couple of bricks from the creek and put it in, fill everything in. It's going to take a little bit more work than that. Well, I started off by using the front end load of the John Deere tractor and tried to push the stones and rocks into the trenches that was made by the water. But it didn't really do much, which means I'm probably going to have to try to do it the old-fashioned way by hand, at least to some extent. There was also the problem that there was so much of the ground that had been washed away by the water that there really wasn't any ground around to use to try to build things back up. So material is going to have to come in to take the place of what was washed away. So I went next door and I talked to Jim, our neighbor. He's a really nice guy, and I had been handshaking with him about the cabin before I came up. But together we went down to the local equipment rental store, and I got a bobcat bucket full of 6 to 8 inch stone granite pieces in the back of the trailer. And I'll use those large stones to fill in those trenches left in the driveway by the storm water. Well, as soon as Jim and I had that stone unloaded, we went back to the equipment rental place and got a bucket full of gravel in the back of the trailer so we could put that gravel on top of the large stones. If you were doing a really small landscaping project, this would probably be a cost-effective way to do it. But at the moment, we're being charged $50 a bucket full of gravel and $60 for a bucket full of the large stone. And in total, I'm probably going to have about $250 in just this first 15 feet of the driveway. I'm going to need to get a much larger truck in here with gravel if I'm going to get a decent price. But they won't drive over those ruts or those stones because they'll get caught in the tires. So this is a necessary step to get enough space for the dump truck to back up into the driveway and empty it out. And I need to make sure it's done that way because I also need to make sure the dump truck doesn't dump his load into the street. I need it in the driveway. Well, it's about 11 o'clock the next day, and I'm going to spend all of my time trying to fill in those trenches with any available rocks that I can find. Well, there's some noise in the background, and that's coming from the trucks working on the road. While I'm working on my driveway, the rest of the neighborhood's working on the street. And that's supposed to be good news for me, because the person that's leading that project has got several dump trucks full of gravel coming. And he has promised one of those dump trucks to me. I'll have to pay him for it, which should be about $600, but $600 and a full load of gravel, I'll take it. Well, it's going to be a long day, but I'm just going to go slow and work away at it, and sooner or later, it's going to get done. I can tell this isn't my favorite job because I'm moving so slow. I'm also probably sore from all the stuff that we did yesterday, and I've still got a couple days ahead of me on this project. But I ended up filling everything I could in with all these rocks and bricks. Well, the driveway's on a little bit of a slope, and you would be surprised how much work it is walking back and forth with those stones trying to fill in those trenches. I used a rake as much as I could, and if there was a bunch, I would just sit on the ground and move things around. But the tractor really helped out a lot. I could fill up the bucket with rocks and stones and then drive it where I needed to and just dump it out. And that's when I knew I had made a really good decision by bringing it up here to the mountains with me. Now, like I said, this is day 2 and I'm trying to rush to get all the trenches filled in before that gravel truck arrives, and it did. That's good. That's good. And I was really pleased, but things didn't work out like I had planned. They backed the truck up into the driveway and started to empty it, and then the person was called off. They needed that load on the road. Well, I was getting excited because I thought my gravel was here, but they're doing work on the road and they need the gravel there before they're going to give it to me. So maybe the next trip. I do a lot of my projects by myself because sometimes the only person you can truly rely on is yourself. So they were supposed to dump a load of gravel in the driveway, and the person that knew that was supposed to happen decided to leave about noon. So they never came back, and now the day's done and it's my bad, and I've got no gravel. So I'm just gonna have to try to work out another solution to get a gravel truck here. Go figure. Okay, well, it's 2 days later. Well, there's the creek today, and I have done a little bit of work. I filled in a little bit of dirt here. I did it very sporadically. I moved a few of the rocks around, and the best I could, I tried to fill the big holes in. Well, I'm waiting for the gravel to show up, and it should be about 5 tons. It's a smaller dump truck, but it's a little cold today, 55 degrees with the wind blowing. I'm gonna try to stay warm on that tractor. And as soon as he drops that off, we're gonna get to work. Well, that larger dump truck should have held about 15 tons, and this smaller single axle dump truck should hold about 5. So he's gonna have to make multiple trips for me to have the same amount of gravel. But we worked out a deal, and we're gonna start off with 2 loads of 10 tons for about $550. So a little bit more expensive, but it is what it is. Well, he pulled in, but he couldn't get the dump bed to work. So he's gonna go to the neighbor's yard and see if he can't get the load sort of pushed towards the back of his truck and try again. It didn't take much. The poor guy had to get up in the truck and shovel some out. But we finally got some gravel in the driveway, so it's time to get on the John Deere tractor and get to work. Well, this little diesel engine doesn't like to start in the cold weather. It's smoking a little bit, but it'll do better once it warms up. Now, I thought the video would basically be just me with my John Deere tractor working. I had no idea that it would take me this long to get to the point where I was pushing some gravel around with it. Well, I've got what's called a box plate on the back of my tractor, and I have never used it before. But I think before I try to do any smoothing out with the box plate, I'll end up taking my front loader and I'll get as much gravel in the trenches as I can to sort of even out the bumpiness. I was also surprised with how much the little front end loader was picking up. I could actually get a pretty good bit of gravel inside the bucket. And even though the pile was pretty large, it didn't take too long before I was to the point where I thought I could engage the box blade. I had to back all the way up so that I had enough room to turn around, but that was a small price to pay with how quickly this little tractor gets the job done. Well, it took me a few tries before I got the hang of using the box blade. And I think in the future, if I was going to use it again for a large project, I probably would put mirrors on the tractor or maybe some kind of camera system so I wouldn't have to try to be turning my neck and watching what I'm doing while I back up. Well, it didn't take much time at all before I had the majority of the pile roughly spread out. I just had where the pile had sort of fanned out towards the edge of the driveway, and I was able to go back with the front end loader and get most of that taken care of before the guy came back with another load of gravel. Well, this is just a little background information for you. This is a John Deere 1025R tractor that was manufactured in 2019. I purchased it in April of 2021, and I have found it to be quite useful. Although I don't use it as much as I thought I would, my favorite attachment to date has to be the forks on the front. We use those more than anything else. You purchase some concrete or you buy some mulch, it's right there to get it out of the back of the truck. You want to move large plants and planter stands from around the yard? The forks are perfect for that. And if you've got anything heavy at all, it's easier using the forks to move things around than it is by far using a dolly or your hands. I believe the driver of the truck said it took him about 45 minutes to get from where we're at in the cabin to the core to get to the gravel and back. I didn't even realize that he was behind me, but 45 minutes have gone by and we're ready for that second load of gravel. So with this load, we now have 10 tons of gravel that's been placed in the driveway. And as I talked to him and thought about how far it was going, I decided I probably needed another 10 tons of gravel to complete the driveway. So I talked to the man and we determined that he couldn't get any more gravel for me today because he had other obligations, but he would bring me some 2 days from now. So I'll get 10 more tons of gravel first thing on Saturday morning. I worked through the second pile of gravel the same way. I started by using the front end loader to grab scoops out and put it into the trenches, and then used the box blade to come back and spread everything out, trying to get things as smooth as possible and to drag the gravel as far up the driveway as I could. And if there was any low spots, I'd get some more gravel in the bucket and put it in those low spots. I hope it's obvious, but if you didn't realize it, I have sped all this footage up because it goes a lot slower when you're on the tractor. If I was probably a little better skilled, I wouldn't use the rake at all, but I think it's probably just going to be easier with my skill level to rake the edges in some and pick it up with the box blade. There is one problem with using the box blade and the way the ground is here. If you hit any of the stones or rocks, it just plows up a big old hole. So you have to end up putting all this gravel in a layer above the ground, at least maybe an inch or two thick. Well, the entrance of the driveway has a very good layer of evenly dispersed gravel, but it's a lot thicker than it needs to be. So I'm going to keep taking that gravel that's down by the entrance, and I'm going to slowly keep pulling it up the driveway so I can make sure the next 2 loads of gravel are placed as far up the driveway as possible. Well, once I had the driveway graded out as good as I could, I drove the tractor over it quite a few times so I could compact everything down. The last thing to do is just to show you the little bit before and after to see how far we've come today. Well, we're definitely going to need more. I got 10 tons coming tomorrow too, but I'm pretty pleased with the way it's turning out. All right, it's the next day and I've got my first of 2 small loads of gravel. Let's see how far we can spread this out. Well, if you made it this far, you might want to like and subscribe, or even thinking about leaving a comment. Just to let you know what's going on, I started the channel back in August of 2022, so I've been at this for a little over 2 years. And my main goal was just to show everybody what I do and maybe help them come up with some ideas or courage to try projects themselves. And I don't think anybody knows this except for me, but I have probably filmed 30 other projects that I have just never got around to editing. Anywhere from converting a bicycle to an electric bike, to making a shop table, to rebuilding a lawnmower from the ground up. I have done quite a few things that I just have not got to. And I hope in 2025 that I can put videos out on Tuesdays and Thursdays and get some of those things edited so you can see everything else I've done around the homestead. So once again, I just want to say thanks for watching, like, subscribe, and let's get back to the video that we're currently working on. And this last load of gravel has finally got here. He's going to dump it, I'm going to give him some money, and that's going to make 19 tons of gravel that we've got in the driveway now. Well, I didn't get those 15 tons of gravel for $600 like I originally thought, but we did get 19 tons of gravel for $1,100, and from where I'm standing out, that's not a bad deal. Alright, so there's 2 places that I still need to put gravel, and the first one is up this hill at the end of the driveway when you're pulling in. We usually use that area to park extra vehicles when there's multiple people at the cabin, or if you need to turn around. It makes it a whole lot easier. So we need to get a bunch of gravel there and get it spread out into the area or the footprint of what a vehicle would be, so that way the tires are actually on the gravel when they're using that area to park or turn around. And now that I've got it raked out into the shape I want, I'll use the tractor and compact all this gravel down. Well, one final rake to get the shape just right, and now you can see how this parking area just flows right into the driveway. And the other area that needed the gravel was on the other side of the bridge, and it's the same thing. If there's a lot of cars at the cabin, you can use this area to park, or you can back up onto the hill and use it to turn around before you leave on the bridge. But I'm going to end up smoothing it out the best I can with this rake. And then I'm going to go back with the box blade and just sort of drag some of this gravel down the hill so that I can get as much coverage with this gravel as I can, because I want to try to get the footprint of the car tires that would be backing up here. Well, this has turned out to be quite a job, and I just don't think I could have done it nearly as well if I hadn't had this tractor. Well, before I go, I wanted to show you guys something neat about the trailer I use to carry my tractor around on. Now, there's a jack in the front by the tongue where you can raise and lower it when you want to connect it to your truck. Well, I've got removable jacks that I mount behind the rear axles, which will keep the trailer from dipping down. So I can actually take my tractor and drive up onto the trailer and scoop off these boulders, rocks, stones, whatever you want to call them, without having to worry about the weight of the tractor and the weight of the rocks, causing the front of the trailer to lift the rear end of the truck off the ground. I just thought those jacks were really pretty neat, and if you're interested in me making a video about them, leave me a comment and I'll make a video showing you all the details about those really cool jacks I've got. Well, if you're wondering what all these stones are for, when the creek jumped out and ran down the driveway, well, we're worried about it doing it again. So we're building a little wall that's going to redirect the water back into the creek before it hits the driveway. And that's what all these stones are for. Jim's an awful good neighbor. He just comes over and helps out. So let me show you what we needed all that rock for. The creek, as it came down the mountain, jumped several different places, and it came over the road there and washed down. There was just so much water. And as it washed down, it took the driveway with it. But this is here to help catch any water. If any water does come down in the future, hopefully it'll hit this, and some or most of it will get diverted back to the creek. Well, there you have it, a job well done. I don't know if the camera's picking up the chainsaw in the background, but that's my neighbor Jim. He's doing something over there at his property. Well, thanks for watching the video. Hopefully I gave you some information that might help you out making some decisions around your homestead. Well, until next time, like, subscribe, look for those tractor videos, and I'll see you in the next one.